Welcome to the Humboldt Lighthouse Podcast. This is Nate Hankus, your host. I record this show from Humboldt County, California, working hard to bring a little bit more light into our world in these bizarre times. I interview yogis, mindfulness teachers, artists, entrepreneurs, freethinkers, holy men and women, scholars, and a whole lot more. In today's episode, I sit down with Heather Rubiales. Heather is CEO of Heather's Hemp Alternatives, a startup bringing hemp-derived bioplastic alternatives to the cannabis industry. We discuss hemp, bioplastics and manufacturing, startup entrepreneurialism, plastic pollution, eco-capitalism, the current state of California's cannabis industry, and much more. Today's episode is sponsored by Tracy Webb's upcoming Ayurveda Life Mastery Program. This 5-month course, beginning this February 5th, will train you to become an Ayurvedic health counselor while also offering life coaching to help you achieve your goals. It's offered online with the option for in-person training 1 weekend per month. I took this course and it changed my life. It can change yours too. I'll have a website link in the show notes. If you follow the link to connect with Tracy, you'll get a $100 tuition discount should you decide to enroll. This episode took place in my home in McKinleyville, California. Heather arrived right on time. We sat across from each other at my kitchen table, drinking tea. Heather wiped the fog off her glasses as they adjusted to room temperature as I set up recording equipment. After a brief back and forth, I hit record. Enjoy. It really does come down, like, in the industry, cannabis industry, or agriculture in general, there is a lot of plastic usage, greenhouses, pulling, like, light depth, covering rows in your garden. Some people use plastic for that. Mm-hmm. So it really does come to, generally, like, agriculturalists might not have an alternative. So it does come down to having an alternative.
Exactly. I think now that it's available, because years ago, hemp, bioplastic, or even compostable plastic and corn-based was not readily available. And still today, it's very hard to find.
It all comes down to cost. Everything's
exactly.
Like, well, what's going to give us the best profit margin? Well, we'll just go with that. And I think that's like an old story that I hope is going away for some people. Like, I mean, you realize there's a lot of companies that are marketing themselves as more progressive or conscientious. And right. I feel like that's a competitive advantage at some point, or with certain markets.
Exactly.
That's happening.
And I think the consumers, eco-conscious consumers, they're ready to take a stance with their own pocket once they, step into that dispensary. Yeah. And they can choose between a brand that has an eco-friendly packaging over one that is petroleum-based.
Yeah. So let's talk about your company, and then we'll kind of get into all things hemp and plastic from there. Just so when you reference the company, people know what's going on. Okay. Tell me about how it started and what you're doing and the whole process.
Okay, so Heather's Hemp Alternatives was a startup that was really an idea that I had about a year and a half ago that became a startup today. And as I was deep involved with the cannabis industry, from packaging, growing myself, harvesting for large farms, I've noticed tons of plastic waste. And a lot of it was being thrown into the truck bed with the compost material and just headed to the landfill. And there was no one really saying anything about this. And it just totally put a light bulb in my head, being like, how is the cannabis industry a part of this plastic problem?
Right.
And I was just saying, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that we are contributing this much plastic waste and then at the same time claiming to be earth-friendly, mostly an earth-friendly industry. Even I would see people with cannabis packaging that says earth-conscious cannabis in a petroleum-based tube for 1 gram. And to me, that it seemed a little bit hypocritical. And I think it's not being true to the consumers, who are buying that cannabis. And I think the industry can, do a whole lot better in in creating a sustainable industry.
That's where entrepreneurs come in.
Exactly.
Because really businesses they need an alternative if it doesn't exist, and that's not their business model to create the alternative. They're going to go with what's available.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is so great.
And this was about a year and a half ago, when I got this idea, and right away I was just full force calling the CEO of Sauna Packaging, who I knew was the only cannabis company creating hemp bioplastic cannabis packaging. So I call him up and, hey, I'm really interested in what you guys are doing. Can you give me any feedback? I would like to start a similar company. And that was back in August of last year. So I've been doing basically a lot of product development homework over the past year and a half,
Without giving away your secrets, how does that all work? You find manufacturers, you find people producing things and ask for prototypes, or these are my dimensions.
Exactly.
Okay.
You get on that computer and you research who is manufacturing this. Hemp bioresin is very limited right now. You have to make sure your manufacturer has the right machinery to work with this material. It doesn't work like your regular plastic. So it could jam machine if your gates aren't big enough, for instance. You have to find a designer, a CAD designer who understands this material too, because the design has to be geometrically simplified and it has to work with this type of material. It doesn't have the flexibility like your normal.
Yeah, how does it feel compared to normal plastic?
So it's still smooth. It's still smooth, but it doesn't have that, the flexibility. So in terms of the squeezing it and popping the top, which a lot of the cannabis packaging
you're talking about the pre-roll tube where you squeeze the top and it pops open.
Yeah, so we weren't able, that was my first design. I was like, oh, well, I'd love to do that design. It's easy. Wasn't going to work because this material does not flex like that, basically. So in this last year and a half, I've gone through a couple different designers, and in the last 2 months, I finally, just through awesome luck, but found a designer who has actually presented talks on the bioresin around the world, demonstrating with Sauna Packaging's products. So he understands the ins and outs of everything that is involved with creating a product utilizing this resin.
You found your guy.
I found my guy, and he's 5 minutes away from the manufacturer. His office is 5 minutes away. His buddies, close friends, are my hemp suppliers.
Oh, great.
So it all worked out.
And then how did you get it past the popping problem?
So now we're in this phase, and so this is we're in the product development phase of making this mold design. So he's actually working on this right now.
Cool.
And we're super excited. We're doing we're still doing a pre-roll tube and an 8th container, but we're hoping for our 8th container to actually be utilized for another product as well.
Okay.
Not going to put it out there right now, but it'll be. I'm really, really excited about it. I think it's going to separate us big time. And then we're going over to cultivation. So
what color is the plastic?
Oh, so the plastic is kind of like it's like a tan. It'll have little specks in it. I'm not sure if you've seen hemp paper.
Yeah.
But it's
your business card is made out of hemp paper.
Yeah, so it's very similar to that. It's still kind of grainy. I really didn't want to do additive colors unless I could find
chemicals.
Exactly. I know they have soy-based inks, but that's something that'll come along in the future. But I really, really, really love the natural look to it. Yeah.
I think that will fit in with most people's earthy brands. Those are the type of companies you're going for.
Exactly.
Or be working with anyways.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess I don't want to get too much into your business. You're giving away secrets, but I'm in agriculture myself, so I'm interested in I see all the plastic we use in the actual farming process itself. There's that green tape everyone uses. Yeah. There's the sheeting that people use in their gardens. I guess where
a hemp type product would come in. I don't know. Or
so we have
where the creativity comes in.
Exactly, the innovation right now, and it's all really new in terms of your hemp bioplastic. So we are looking into doing trellising too.
Okay.
So by the end of this year, we hope to come out with the hemp rope.
Yeah.
Basically, it's going to be compostable, biodegradable, and we have a way to smooth it out so the twine won't be an issue.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've seen personally is hemp rope's a little bit.
Yeah.
What is that? The fabric comes out and it can go into the buds, and so we have a way of working that issue out. So that's like probably something that I'm most excited about is getting that trellis out there, and greenhouse tarping is on my list.
The trellising, that's another big one. People have piles of trellising.
It's a fishing net. I mean, basically, if that ends up in our watersheds, it's a huge economical disaster and environmental. Sorry, and economical.
Yeah. I mean, that's the argument that environmentalists need to be making, is that any environmental damages we're causing are causing economic damages as well, because that's the only language that people were like up against understand.
Yeah.
Like, you guys understand that this is going to cost you a lot of money in the future, so let's like do something about it now.
Exactly. And the problem is that we're seeing too in the cannabis industry, and especially in terms of the packaging, is that this plastic packaging is not recyclable. So turning to those alternatives to waste that many people honestly believe in full-heartedly doesn't actually work within these types of packaging.
Well, I read a report recently that said the average human consumes about 5 grams of plastic a week.
Yeah.
And that was just based off of, I think there were 40 different studies of these microplastics in drinking water and bottled water in different food sources. And then this researcher looked at all those and was like, all right, what's the average amount of water someone drinks, bottled water, these specific types of foods? Okay, that comes out to about 5 grams on average that each person is consuming of these microplastics.
Yeah.
And that's the equivalent of a credit card. And if you extend that out over a year, that's a lot of plastic you could make something useful.
Exactly. And I think, it's really, so this is where I really want to express this to people too, who may not necessarily always be environmentally gung-ho, right? But to have them think about their health and the health of humanity, because plastic is really affecting our bodies, too. So
tell me how, because it's like, okay, I'm ingesting plastic. If that's not hurting me, I mean, it kind of seems grody, but it's in and out.
Well, I mean, plastic has BPAs, right? And BPAs affect your hormones. Yeah, I mean, just alone with the BPA, I mean,
Can you explain that? What kind of hormones? How is that affecting people? Do you have any idea?
I don't have a scientific,
I know that the BPA, they got rid of it because it was causing some sort of hormonal disruption. I don't know what was happening to people, but hormones are important.
Yeah, I'm not scientifically sure already, but I know that, even eating out of plastic or drinking out of a water bottle that was sitting in a car is not good for your health due to the BPAs. And I'd like to get into more information on that, but I think breaking free from petroleum-based plastics altogether is something that is going to be mandatory within the next decade.
I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Because people are looking for it.
Exactly.
I was looking at starting something, and I was trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I not contribute to this plastic thing? I was even looking for recycled plastic bottles, and nothing was really out there. So I was like, okay, so if I do start something, maybe I have to go further up the supply chain and start up there, because that's going to be something people are looking for. And exactly what you're doing.
Exactly, and it's hard to. These people are paying $6 6 cents for the pre-roll tubes. And
coming from Alibaba.
Exactly, and to convince them to go to 30 cents. I mean, that could be their profit margin for that. So it's that's something that I'm working with, and I would love to express to them that as they go green, they will for sure be seen. And it will sell more, just showing that they truly care, because people are becoming more aware of the plastic crisis that we're facing.
People are becoming more aware of it. Also, I've read a study that said the younger generation, millennial generations, are leaps and bounds ahead of the older generations, willing to like shop their values.
Exactly.
Where it's like, okay, well, I know this plastic thing is an issue, and I kind of feel helpless about it because it's such a big thing. But there's an item, it costs an extra $1, but it doesn't contribute to this plastic problem.
Exactly.
I'll purchase that thing, and I feel a little bit better on the inside for being able to make some change.
Exactly, and I think that's word for word is basically what I would be expressing to my customers, is that this is going to be a good feel product. Once your customers buy it, they're going to feel good about it.
I would say that, and I would also say it's something that differentiates them from every other.
Exactly.
And
you walk into that dispensary, it looks like a dollar store, everything packaged up. And being an eco-conscious consumer myself, I would, and I do smoke weed, but I would probably, deter from going altogether because there isn't eco-friendly options, and I don't want to feel environmentally responsible for the plastic that I bring home.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a position to be able to grow, that's probably always going to be the best option.
Yeah.
But this dispensary is easy to go in. You see issues. Glass bottles, I see some things jarred in glass that's heavier, so shipping costs.
And then all the glass comes with probably PP number 5 plastic tops. Yeah. So, and that's our goal too. Is to
cool. Good. Good. I think you're gonna offer a lot of help. So the plastic itself, what about the plant can turn it into plastic?
So it's all about that stock.
It is, okay.
Yes.
So it's this ground up stock we're looking at. We're looking at that too.
Yeah, so basically they extract the cellulose from the hemp stalk, and they create hemp herds, right? So then the hemp herds are then mixed into the PLA, which is plant-based, made out of corn. Okay. So it's basically like your marshmallow crispy treat, right? So your Rice Krispies, Rice Krispies, they're like your hemp herds, right?
The herd, little bead.
Little beads.
Like, generally that's how plastic is sold, right? To manufacturers, little beads of plastic.
Beads. So you make those little beads, and then you add them into the marshmallow, which is the polymer, which is made out of plant-based corn. Okay. So, and you mix that all together to create a. Is
it heated or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's where you have to also find a manufacturer who can withstand this heat as well.
It requires
a hotter temperature to go through the mold than normal plastic. So right now the plastic is made with 30% hemp and 70% corn. And my goal by the end of this year, my hemp supplier I've been talking about, is to increase that percentage. Yeah. And then again, price per pound would go up. Yeah. But this is our ultimate goal is to get that highest. Yeah, exactly. I mean, hemp is such an amazing plant, and alone it takes up 4 times as much carbon dioxide than trees. It's beneficial for our soil, our land.
Yeah, this is a perfect opportunity to transition. I always hear, there's always someone in an environmental class that's going to submit an essay that says hemp can save the world.
Yeah.
And there's books out there. Yes. You see the websites. You're like, wow, it can. Henry Ford made a panel of one of his doors of the cars out of hemp, and he hit it with like a big hammer, and it didn't dent it, and everyone thought this was going to be an amazing product. And then it got axed just because it got
Exactly.
associated with the cannabis.
Exactly.
And we can get into all that. I'm sure you're well
Oh
aware
yeah, I'm
of.
well versed in that. It's the whole reason why, you know, cannabis became illegal in the first place was because, you know, you have these big corporations like Hearst in the newspaper industry, DuPont in the plastics, and they were terrified of hemp. It would have wiped them out.
there was I forget what it was, Popular Science, I believe. There was an article that said the next $1 billion crop is hemp.
Yeah.
Is extolling the virtues of hemp. It said this will be able to replace plastics, which is what you're on. It'll be able to replace paper. It'll be able to replace fuel, different oils.
Yeah.
And this was it William Randall Hearst?
Yeah, William Randolph Hearst.
He owned a bunch of forests.
Yep.
Because he had like a newspaper
Yep.
empire. And he saw this hemp as a threat to his newspaper empire.
Exactly.
Because it said the hemp was superior paper.
Exactly.
And then I didn't know about DuPont, but that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so then the Hearst made the Yellow Pages, right? So back in the day, in the 1930s, I mean, that was the only source of media you really had was reading the paper.
Yeah.
So they would make false accusations about the blacks and the Hispanics smoking the hemp and, you know, going out and, you know, doing atrocious acts, which was all false, you know.
Fake news.
Yeah,
They
exactly. Right then.
Who controls the news
Yeah,
controls
so,
the society.
I mean, I like just from that history, I'm so excited that we're here today in 2020. Oh my goodness.
Taking a lot of effort because I grew up in the Midwest. Cannabis is super taboo. Like, if you'd have to whisper about it and people would just kind of like snicker. Whereas out here, everyone's like, it's kind of the way of life, and Humboldt, people are used to it. It's been part of this community, the fabric of this community for so many decades. A lot of the back to the earth, back to the land movement, people came out from the Bay Area, the hippies in the Bay Area. They came up here, started their homesteads, and that was their cash crop. So I think that's beautiful. So we know that it's been maligned. It hasn't been treated well. It hasn't been given the respect it deserves, but it's getting its time in the spotlight now.
Yeah.
So some of these benefits beyond the plastic, what are you seeing on the market? What have you read about?
So basically, Sauna, the company that launched in July of 2018, it was their first product launch, Sauna Packaging. They have been extremely acknowledged in the industry and beyond the industry, actually. Receiving widespread media coverage on this. I know that the hemp bioplastic market, more people are becoming on board with it, but right now it's still difficult. It's still really difficult to get into because there's not a lot of decortification facilities, which the decortification facilities are needed to break down the hemp into the hemp herds.
So the decortification, that's taking that hemp stalk.
Exactly.
And then
decording it and then creating the herds from that. And that machinery alone is about $2.5 million.
I saw a video of like what Colorado's doing, and they're kind of doing like a cooperative type model where all these farmers will go take all their products that they've grown, take them to this facility, which will then has invested in all this stuff. And I think they kind of own it collectively, and then that's how they do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know that I wish, I really would love to do something similar here. I know that Humboldt kind of banned hemp cultivation.
Did that go through? I spoke with Josh Hanna, and it was like on the verge of getting that vote.
I think they just put out a limited amount of people who are able to grow. I'm not sure exactly the end result of that.
Josh back on to.
But I know that it was a big controversy, especially with the Humboldt County Growers Association. Yeah. So that's something, an issue that we're facing here.
Political.
And I understand they're worried about cross-pollination, but at the same time, there's a lot of...
You can have males in any field anywhere.
Exactly.
Well, Josh was concerned. He grows it for flower. Like CBD with no THC. It technically qualifies as hemp because that's how they define it. Obviously, if we wanted to get into like more industrial hemp, it would look different. You'd probably be growing for the stalk. You'd grow real tightly together so they all shoot up.
Yeah.
But I've heard about hemp being used for other things besides plastics. Like, it's a building material.
Hempcrete.
Hempcrete. I've heard that. I knew someone that had their floor was made out of like a vinyl type material that you would normally have on your floor. It was made out of hemp. Or a certain percent of hemp. And then I've heard that obviously the seeds are a really good source of protein.
And the oils, just extracting the hemp oil, hemp seed, fuel for the car.
Yeah. I think that was Henry Ford's thing. He's like, I can make all the lubricants out of hemp. I can make the panels out of hemp. I can create fuel out of hemp.
Right?
I think you can find that online. I'll post a link to it.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
I think the opportunities that this plant provides was so scary to, like we said, to the big guys back then.
Yeah, I mean, they've had to protect their investments.
Exactly. And today, I think we're still going to have a little bit of some, what would you say?
Battle or like
I would
struggle?
The struggle with still the petroleum plastic industry. My hemp supplier had mentioned we will be putting tariffs on it.
Okay.
So basically a certain amount of hemp PLA, hemp out resin, would be able to be created. Okay. I'm not sure on the details on that yet. It was just something that my hemp supplier had mentioned. Okay. But
I know that I had talked to someone and they said that they were doing or hemp plastics in China.
Oh yeah, so they've been doing that for a while.
To prevent it from coming in the States and competing with businesses like yours. So that helps you.
And then I know Canada has been on the hemp plastic journey for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the Midwest in America is the main hub.
They're opening up. I know in Wisconsin they open fields. I think in Missouri.
Yeah.
It's a new source of opportunity for people. That should fit in with some conservative ideals and economic thoughts.
They're taking back, the old ways. Back in the day, it was your patriotic duty to grow hemp. Especially in the Midwest.
Yeah.
So it's there.
What's that Terrence McKenna line? He's like, if you don't believe in the ability to alter your consciousness, then the Constitution's not worth the hemp it was written on, or something like that.
Exactly. I love that.
The freedom of it. Let's talk about the cannabis community briefly and how the community itself might be seen as a threat to, like, not just like other industries that we're critical of, but also like society in general. Like, there seems to be within the cannabis community, people are more open to ideas that aren't mainstream. Their minds are more open. They seem to be more aware. And specifically in Humboldt, people aren't working for the man, so they can live a little more freely.
Exactly.
And kind of, they don't have to conform to survive. So that can be kind of dangerous to the order of the day. I think that's something that, with the legalization, I think that the industry itself is going to become more suit and tie, and that's that's kind of regretful on one hand, because that way of life is going away. But on the other hand, that's going to make it seem more palatable to the people who do control the levers of power.
I think it's been tough. I think especially for the Humboldt growers, with legalization, people that never really have had to deal with personnel. Even people who worked on the hills and now have to work in town and be more professional. It goes both ways, from the employers to the employees. Yeah. Within the cannabis industry, I think everyone just has their head above water right now, with terms of paying ridiculous amounts of money in taxes, having to track and trace every single gram of waste or product. I mean, it's things that these growers have never had to deal with before.
I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of the track and trace. You sound like you are.
Yeah, it's intense.
Tell me all about it.
So basically, you have to tag every plant that is grown. So, and then once that plant is harvested, you have to weigh the waste of the plant, and then you weigh the final product. And then, so basically, you can imagine if you have 2,000 plus plants, it's a lot of work, and every plant has to get weighed.
Every single individually.
Yeah, and then this also entails a lot of plastic waste. So,
because you're packaging things.
Well, basically, a lot of people they'll put it in like turkey bags or put it in big construction bags and weigh it that way.
Turkey bags, that's the thing.
Yeah, turkey bags. I mean, we're still putting every pound of cannabis in a plastic turkey bag, and that's a huge question, you know. And it's
a better way to do it.
Yeah, there's so much better ways right now, and that are out there, and it's just time that people bring the awareness and bring the solution.
Yeah, because
I realized if you bring the awareness, not a lot of people are going to want to listen to you unless you have a solution.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I've always resonated with. The conservative arguments, like, there's a lot of stuff wrong, and it's easy to complain about things and point fingers, but this is more like the conservative people that are like in the trenches of business. And they're like, but if you're not bringing a solution, then we don't want to hear about it because we're here in the trenches, like trying to survive here.
Right.
But if you can come with a solution like what you're doing,
exactly,
then they're more than happy.
That's why I was always looking like that crazy hippie chick when, working out there in the hills, trying to separate all the trellis from the compost, and they're like, stop it, we don't have time. And I'm like, what? I can't. So,
let's not get this in our waterways.
But I'm glad I experienced all that, or else I wouldn't, be sitting in this chair that I am today as a CEO of this company. And all that plastic waste and all of that frustration is what drove me into doing this, and so I'm very grateful for all of that.
What are people doing to make the track and trace a little bit easier?
So I'm not so sure.
Is there any innovation there? Is it all?
I think
it's all
still,
on the computer, right?
It's
like you
all
have to
computer.
Input it. And, that's gross. Some of that stuff is like someone knew the governor and they owned a software company and they said, "Hey, we should do track and trace. I'm going to make the software for it, and everyone's going to have to buy it." Like that stuff happens.
Yeah, it's insane. Honestly.
They're just making sure it doesn't end up on the black market.
I'm sure, but I don't know the whole reasons why they do it, but I'm pretty sure it's to regulate very highly on every plant that you're growing and how much you're making.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping in the long term it just is like tomatoes.
Right, where everyone's just in their backyard, if they want to smoke. They
even kind of made that a bit of a challenge. They changed it. People can grow 6 plants in their household on their property, but it has to be behind a locked gate, and I forget what other restrictions there were. People weren't allowed to be able to see it from over a fence or from the roads.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it still brings up challenges because I think we've all heard stories of people getting robbed during close to harvest. People roll through at night and just cut a plant down.
I mean, it's happening a lot this year. Actually, last year on legal farms, because in that actually have a lot of legal people worried too, because now all of their public information, their farm address,
where they're at,
is public, and so that's an issue. I think with the legalization is now people are finding these addresses and come harvest time, taking a big cut.
I didn't realize that was going to be. Yeah, you are putting yourself out there, and I know a lot of people early on with the permitting process are thinking well, I don't want to put my name out there because federally it's still an issue.
Yeah. And
now my name is, I have to do this to be in compliance, but it's really putting me into the spotlight, which historically this whole industry has been about staying in the shadows.
Yeah. It's been an interesting couple of years, I think, of
So how's it affecting trimmers? Because I know it's really affecting the economy. Like I talked to one business owner locally, more of like a cafe type of business. I was like, yeah, business is down about 50%.
Wow, very interesting.
And that's just because trimmers don't have the cash on hand.
Exactly. Maybe being a trimmer myself, and I remember when I first started, we were getting paid $2.50 a pound.
Yeah.
Now
and you could do a pound a day.
Oh
maybe
yeah, easy. Hopefully, a pound a day, 2 pounds.
Yeah, that's good pay.
Very good pay. Yeah. And now, it's on average $100 a pound. Okay. So even if you're really good, you're still like 8-hour days. It's not a lot of cash. Yeah. And so people will go on the black market because, taxing even on that $100 a pound. I mean, you're making really nothing like you're used to. Yeah. So people who, basically, what am I trying to say? Relied on this job for years and years and years and years. This was their full-time job. Or they can go travel for a month after the trimming season. It's no longer really like that.
I've met people that, couples that will come trim, to come to Humboldt and trim, and then they'll just go live in southern India for the off season where it's really cheap to live.
Exactly. I went to Thailand for 2 months after trimming the first season. Just
kind of going away. Well, it's also, for me, it's sad because there's so many talented artists that were, they just don't fit into the 9-to-5 scene, and there was no real place for them in society.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, this is a community that supports the arts, and it's kind of like seasonal, transient type of work that you can work for a while.
And you meet amazing people. Honestly, I've had such great experiences.
I've never met so many insanely talented people in my life. People that just multi-talented.
The trimming grants, I think that should be a documentary in itself, just a trimming grant. That would be amazing.
Such a musicians, painters, just people that are just amazing. But it's not necessarily like something that our economy values or the market values.
Exactly.
But it's awesome.
And I think a lot of the trimming, went white market. So now it's a lot, it's machine, in town.
Well,
it's been
probably
machine.
Going to be a lot of machine stuff.
And then it'll go hourly, 12, 15 an hour. And so.
Yeah, it's not pleasant work.
Not when you were making 30 something an hour. It's like, it's a little hard.
Yeah.
And, I'll miss it, but I'm glad to be out of it and actually on a path.
Do you think that the change of the industry and the change of the economics kind of forced your hand a little bit to get creative?
I think so, for sure. I mean, if
I've seen that. I think that's not necessarily a bad thing.
If I was still sitting in that chair making, almost $500 a day, but then again, I don't know. It's really hard to say that because I'm so passionate about this now, and I feel like I'm doing this more for the planet than anything. Yeah. It's not like, I'm going to be like this multimillionaire, yay. I'm like, no, it's more like...
Well, you've got purpose, passion, and drive, and everything I've read is like, if you have that, that'll get you through even the slumps. Like when you couldn't create that pop top, some people would be like, oh, I'm out. It doesn't work.
I ran into plenty of walls this last year, and where I almost gave up, but then the next day I get some support from a friend, or no, you gotta keep going, Heather, and then I'm up again, and I'm back on that computer researching, and back in the game, because I'm gonna hit a lot of walls, and this is not going to be easy. But that's the thing as an entrepreneur, is you have to be flexible. You have to basically accept your failures. Because if I didn't have these, and learn from them, because if I didn't have these failures, I would be basically not understanding where I need to be today in terms of product development, and investing in $500,000 in cavity molds that won't be moldable, and that would have been way worse than what happened. So,
well, tell us Like, do you have prototypes that people can see online, or what you're doing?
So
or
right now,
where can people find you, and what do you need
Okay.
to be successful in the future, and what are you looking for?
Okay, well, so right now you can find me at Heather's Hemp Alternatives on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page, Heather's Hemp Alternatives, and I also have a website, heathershempalternatives.com. So right now we are in our product development phase. Our designer is working on a design. So I will actually get that in like next week, right? So we're like really in this waiting phase. But our project timeline is that we hope to have our prototypes, and I can send out samples to anyone who's interested, is by the end of April.
Okay.
So we have to basically create single cavity molds. We're going to create a few thousand prototypes to basically make sure product effectiveness,
Real
our
world
design,
testing.
exactly.
How many times can I open and close
Exactly.
it?
You know, it's for customer review, and then I'll have to send these off to child resistant. Make sure that they are child resistant.
It's part of the regulations. It has to
exactly.
be child resistant.
Exactly. So once that's all checked out, then it's time to do another round of funding for our multi-cavity molds. And then once those multi-cavity molds are finalized, then production is on. So we hope to have our final production ready to go by the end of July.
Awesome.
So,
well, congratulations. That's really inspiring, and I think that's just what needs to be happening. Is we see all these problems in the world, and it seems like the easiest solution is everyone should just simplify their lives, but that's not.
It is hard because
feasible.
Yeah, I mean, you
people
still have
aren't
to
going
live.
do it. Yeah, you still have to live.
Yeah, and that's
so.
where I was struggling with is starting this business and trying to live at the same time.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're passionate about it, you can do it. You can do it. It's taking maybe even 2 hours a day and researching what you want to get into. We have that bright idea.
Yeah.
Get on that computer. Research.
Yeah, we have all the information. We can, literally with the internet, you can pretty much get in contact with
Exactly. Get that phone call, just start calling people, asking how they did it. I wouldn't be here where I am at today if I didn't contact people that were already doing this and had shown me the way.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you enjoy listening to my show, please rate and subscribe. That small act of gratitude will help other people find the show. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at The Humboldt Lighthouse. I'll leave you with a wisdom quote to take with you for the rest of your day. This is from Ram Dass, whose teachings I've been revisiting since his recent passing. You and I are the force of transformation in the world. We are the consciousness that will define the nature of the reality we are moving into. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Peace.